Question, Lord Moylan.
My Lords, I beg leave to ask the question standing in my name on the order paper.
My Lords, Heathrow expansion will support UK competitiveness and economic growth. In June, the Secretary of State invited proposals. Several were received and 2 remain under active consideration. My department will decide on a single scheme by the end of November to inform the airport's National Policy Statement review, which was launched on the 20th of October. Proposals will not be published by the department in accordance with the Secretary of State's letter of the 30th of June to potential promoters, though some have independently released details of their schemes.
My Lords, Heathrow expansion is an absolutely enormous project, and there has been remarkably little public engagement. Before deciding between the 2 remaining bidders, would the government agree that it should engage in public consultation, particularly on the costs that will flow through to passengers as a result of the regulatory structure, so that they are aware?
The launch of the Airport's National Policy Statement review on the 22nd of October is one of the significant steps government is taking to support the expansion of Heathrow. The review has begun before final scheme selection to allow early policy and analytical work. Public consultation will of course take place. Round tables with key stakeholders will be held during the review and consultation phases, and the further DCO process afterwards will include statutory consultation and public examination.
My Lords, given the significant congestion already around Heathrow Airport and the impact on local communities, will the government be making improved public transport access a condition of any plans for Heathrow expansion, in particular southern and western rail links?
So the noble Baroness will know that we discussed the statement made in another place on Heathrow on Monday evening in this House, and she's right because I said so then, and I'll say so again. The public transport links to and from Heathrow must be a critical feature of any proposals put forward by any promoter. There are, as she mentions, both schemes for the southern and western access. The Elizabeth line is significantly improved in connectivity terms for the airport since it opened, and we await promoters' proposals for public transport links to the airport.
My Lords, at the same time as considering proposals for Heathrow, would my noble friend the Minister, using his huge talents, give his full support to the Mayor of Doncaster, Ros Jones, for the reopening of Doncaster Airport, which is vital for regional economic growth in Yorkshire and the Humber?
My noble friend raises a point that's certainly been raised here before. The government has put itself out, as it should do, to support the reopening of Doncaster Airport. And of course we will support the Mayor of Doncaster in the aspiration to have better connectivity for that part of Yorkshire.
Lords, the debate over Heathrow expansion, which I strongly support, and I draw attention to my entry in the Register working in the aviation industry, albeit not at Heathrow, is often couched in terms of passenger flights. In terms of the government's decision-making, what consideration is it giving to the fact that over £200 billion worth of trade goes through Heathrow, including a majority of trade in some very important sectors like our world-leading pharmaceutical industry?
A number of noble lords are rerunning the debate we had on Monday evening. And the noble lord is right that 72% of UK air freight by value goes through Heathrow, because it is, of course, the only hub airport in Britain, and that's why the government is so keen to expand it. And he is right that the air freight and the value of air freight and the value of air freight to international trade to and from Britain is a very important issue in considering the expansion of the airport.
Lords, my Lords, can I just challenge this issue on air freight, because high-value air freight takes up almost no or very little capacity in the holds of aircraft. In fact, we could double the high value and no one would scarcely notice. Would he just confirm that the majority of air freight by bulk and by weight is fish, followed by books, that's with medicines coming up a third? And in fact, the Scottish farming industry would do much better if instead of hubbing all of its fish and Scottish passengers down to London, BA ran direct flights from Edinburgh to New York, the route which is most useful for fish.
I had a feeling that fish and books would come up again because they came up on Monday, and of course value and size are two different things, aren't they? But the point of an international hub airport, of which I should continue to say we have only one and we will have only one, which is Heathrow, is international connectivity around the globe. And expanding an international hub airport should mean more connectivity to more places, and that will enable more fish and books and more salmon to be sent all around the globe.
Lords, as part of the assessment of the 2 remaining bids for the third runway, would my noble friend take into account the additional carbon footprint of first of all, the additional planes, but also the concrete and steel which go into the construction, and any other transport that is needed to get to service the passengers?
My noble friend is right that the carbon footprint, both of building a third runway and of operating the airport, is very significant, and the government's made it quite clear that actually any proposed scheme must meet 4 clear tests, of which aligning with our legal obligations on climate change, including net zero, is one. He's also aware, I think, that the construction industry is moving forward with more carbon-friendly methods of construction, and I think it would be reasonable that the government and the country would expect a successful scheme to be carbon-friendly, if not carbon-neutral, in construction.
Doubt that I was here for the beginning of this question. I was just on the steps. May I ask my noble friend if he recalls, I'm sure he does, the plans for expansion at Stansted Airport, which extended over more than a decade, 20 odd years ago, and they didn't in the end come to anything of any significance, but there was a lot of collateral damage in the form of compulsory purchases and other acquisition of land that then had to be fed back into the system, and many people suffered as a consequence. Can he reassure us that when whatever plan is brought forward for expansion at Heathrow, if it is, it will attempt not to put people in that situation again?
The noble Baroness raises a really important point. The history of airport expansion in Britain isn't particularly happy. And a number of proposals have taken a very long time, and indeed the last government's ANPS didn't go anywhere. This government is determined to make progress in these areas, and she's right that the long-term uncertainty of failing to progress with plans leaves many people uncomfortable or worse. So the government is determined to make progress, and the government set itself some targets, both in getting to the DCO and actually building this thing, so that people can be uncertain for as little time as possible, and the certainty is as great as possible thereafter.
Could I ask the Minister if it's possible for the government to buy my ex-wife's house, which is right near the runway? It is absolutely appalling when you go down there. And if you're going to make billions and billions of pounds for the UK, then maybe you should be spending some of that money around improving the lives of those people who live under the flight paths. Because what you're going to be doing is adding an enormous amount of worry and concern to those people living down there.
I'm sure the noble lord will recognise that it would be unusual for a minister to commit to buying somebody's individual property from the dispatch box. But the more serious point that he raises is about noise commitments, and again, any scheme that comes forward should meet the government's 4 clear tests, of which one is that it's consistent with our noise commitments. And I would expect promoters not only to meet the government's commitments to noise, but also look at the effect on properties immediately adjacent to the runway that they propose to build.
Fourth oral question.